Waiting. Awesome. Okay, so hello and welcome to Before You Date Again, the free set reset to dating again after divorce. Might need to head out. Yeah, I'll send the recording on. I should have your email, so I will send it on to you. You'll get the replay if you need to head out halfway. That's no problem. So thanks for letting me know about that. When you just disappear, I'll be like, oh my god, you're tired of me. No. So what we're going to talk about today is just the three steps that I think are really important for you to make sure that you've taken before you start dating again. Now, I'm curious to know, is anybody already dating now, or are you thinking about it? Like, where are you at? What is it that what are you feeling about it all as well? What made you decide to show up today and sign up to this workshop? I'd love for you to share. So I'm going to talk to you about what the three areas are. I'm going to workshop them with you as well. This is why it's a workshop and not just a masterclass. So I want to go through stuff just to kind of help you be prepared if you aren't dating, or if you've already been out there and you started and you've tried and maybe things aren't working. Maybe you'd be like, okay, let's reflect on what might be the issue. You've dabbled, but you feel that you're not actually ready. Okay, that's fine. These will hopefully let you know, these three areas, whether or not you are actually feeling ready. So first of all, let me just introduce myself if you've not come across me before. My name is Top Air. I always say my name sounds like top and air, the top that you wear and the air that you breathe, Top Air. And I'm a dating coach. I've been a dating coach for, gosh, I've lost track, 7+ years. I know it's been a while. And I'm also the creator of the Dream Partner Formula. So if you've been around the meetup group, if you listen to my podcast, hopefully you've heard about my 6-part framework, which I created for helping you to attract and choose your dream partner. And this is a framework that you can apply to help you to get ready for love again after divorce. This is why it's beautiful. You can just work your way through it. And it will also help you for attracting and choosing a new partner as well. And it's also something you can refer back to when you're in a relationship, when you're having some struggles. You can just check yourself against this. Is it this? Could it be this? Could it be this? So that's why it's just so brilliant. And I just want to teach everybody this. And it's something that I have used myself to help me get to where I am today, which is being in a relationship with my dream partner after a long time. And this is why I do what I do, because I got married in my early 20s, which is so many years ago. I'm joking. It's a while ago. And then I actually got divorced after 3 years. So we were together for a few years, and then we got married, and we got divorced after a few years. And then I just basically fell in and out of relationships after that. And looking for a new partner. I was just looking for somebody because I wanted to be in a relationship. I don't know if it was to fix, what I just come out of, but I definitely wanted to find my person, because obviously my ex-husband was not my person. And it took me, though, a really long time. It took me like about 17 years before I met my now partner online, which was a really long time, falling in and out of relationships and just being stuck in this pattern that I didn't even know I was stuck in. And that's why I've really made it my mission to help divorced women and men, so that you, in your search for a new partner, wanting to get into a new relationship, you don't take as long as I did. Right? I don't want you to do that, because sometimes we can come out caught up in all sorts of things, emotions, feelings, dragging stuff with us that really impacts what we are looking for next and who we end up attracting, basically. And this is why I want to really help you to avoid that by being ready. So exactly what you're just saying, Nikki, you're not really sure if you're ready. It's being ready, and how to actually be ready for the next person. So I just touched briefly on my dream partner formula. So it's split into kind of two parts. It's about who you're being and what you're doing. So the who you're being part is really what we're going to focus more on today. Somebody else is just joining us. What we're going to focus on today is the who you're being part, because the who you're being part is going to enable you to align with a new partner. And then what you're doing is the part where you are going to actually then be the intentional part of dating, so with the who you're being, it's just really about the internal part, the internal bit of work that you've got to do. Hi, God's Way, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And then
Thank
the what
you.
you're doing part is going to be very much about, you know, what you're going to do when you're actually dating and how to make sure that you are choosing the right person as well, without all the drama, without all the fuss. So that's really what it's going to be about. So I'm going to talk, and actually today's session is really going to cover all of the who you're being, and then just maybe a tiny bit actually of the what you're doing, so you can start to get a picture of, you know, something that you need to start doing as well before you kind of go out there. So um like I was saying, I really want to help you guys to kind of just avoid all the challenge and the drama and the frustration and everything like that when it comes to dating and finding somebody. And, you know, I think it's so important for you to invest your time and your energy in kind of, you know, getting yourself ready, because our relationships, they can obviously bring us so much joy, but they can also bring us so much pain. And if we want to kind of be in a situation where we are like ready for someone new, we want to make sure that we are like kind of at the top of our game, really, and prepared for not like so much the pain, which is going to come, but just be prepared to deal with situations, whatever they are. So this workshop today, the 3 areas we're going to focus on basically is about how you feel about yourself. Are you ready, relationship ready? Are there areas in your life that maybe need to be resolved? And also looking at what it is that you actually want. Those are the 3 key things really that are going to support you in terms of feeling ready. So are we ready to get started? Are we ready to dive in? I hope we are. And like I was saying, God's way, before you joined us, please use the chat. Please share any reflections and insights as you go. Please put your questions in there. We're definitely going to come back to them towards the end. I'd love to know where you're joining us from and also what your status is. Are you divorced? Are you divorced and dating? Are you coming out of a long-term relationship? Are you dating? What's the situation? So yeah, please share. So first of all, the key focus that, you know, for you in terms of getting yourself out there again is this is the number one pillar in my program or in my formula, because I think it's the most important one of all in terms of who you're going to actually attract and who you're going to keep. Now, I'm sorry because it gets really hot in here, so I'm going to have my fan on. Every now and then you're going to see me like putting my fan on to keep me cool. And I'm hoping that this is not coming through on the recording. Sorry, guys, if it is. But number one, you need to feel amazing about yourself. Okay. You need to make sure that you feel worthy of love. You need to make sure that you feel worthy of the relationship that you desire. You need to feel like you're enough. Okay. That's the first thing that needs to be, you need to make sure you've got ticked before you move on. Because if you're not feeling great about yourself, then it's 100% going to impact basically who you attract into your world. Okay, your level of worthiness really, really matters, because you can end up attracting people, for one, who don't really feel worthy themselves. And if we're not feeling worthy fully ourselves, we're not able to fully show up properly in the relationship. So if you're already feeling like that, you might attract somebody yourself, because like does tend to track like, right? And they're not going to show up for you in the right way. Some people as well, when they're not feeling worthy, they get into relationships because they want to have their ego stroked. They want to feel validated themselves. And often if you're somebody yourself that needs validating, then you need them. Okay, you need them to validate you. So then that also has a bit of a ego stroking element to it, and it means they can take advantage of that. That's why sometimes we find ourselves getting manipulated by people. This is why love bombing can happen quite easily as well. Someone's showering you with all of this attention and affection because you're so in need of it. And that's how people can kind of get you really hooked and then just really take your feelings and everything for a spin. Okay. And just continue that mess along the way. I didn't even mention that actually in part of my 17-year journey, I got caught up in like a 5-year situationship. And that was certainly because I totally got love bombed, but also because that person kept dangling this promise of a relationship. And because I was in so much need, my self-worth was definitely low. I wasn't valuing myself. So I just allowed them to do that. I allowed them to keep me in limbo when really I deserved so much more. And that's the point I finally got to, you know, when I finally clocked that it was my low self-worth, and I worked on it and I built myself back up. I reclaimed my self-worth, because we always have it, but we tend to lose it over time. That's when I suddenly was like, hold on, I deserve so much more than this. What on earth am I doing? And that is basically why I was able to finally let that go. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation or casual relationship, if they could be very tricky to get out of if you are not aware of what's going on and you don't value yourself enough. So that's why one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure that you do. You could also potentially self sabotage your relationship because you don't think that you're worth the relationship, or you don't think that you're worth having that person in your life. If you don't feel like you're enough, you can always question somebody. You can always question whether or not that person should really be with you. I mean, really, look how amazing they are. Like, you can also, definitely, put somebody on a bit of a high status and just think, oh my God, I'm not worthy of that. Or actually, when you're thinking to yourself, this is the relationship I want, but really, am I worth having that relationship? Probably not. So then you find yourself probably like, settling for less as well. You can end up putting the other person on a bit of a pedestal if you don't think you're enough, but they are, as I was talking about status. And this is where you can then end up bending over backwards just to try and make them stay with you. You want to make sure that you are earning your worth, you're earning your value in their life as well. So you feel like you have to do all these things to make yourself indispensable. This is where as well we can end up trying to rescue people as a result of this lack of worth. So it can also affect whether you are also willing to ask what you want in that relationship or not. You might feel like you're not even able to ask for that because you have got to please them. You've got to make sure you don't rock the boat, you don't upset things, you don't upset situations so that they stay, so that they keep you. You might also find yourself getting triggered as well if you've not dealt with any feelings about yourself. You might be getting triggered by the people. Someone says something, but actually it just sparks this reaction in you or this feeling in you, and then this blame that maybe you put on them about the way that they're treating you and behaving towards you, when really it's just because you're not feeling that great about you. So anything that they say, it might just reinforce this feeling that you've already got. It might just validate that. Oh, there you go. Do you know what I mean? I knew that about myself, and and I knew that this isn't going to work. Or or you can also be saying that, oh, well, I don't think that I'm the right person for you, and all this kind of stuff. That's where, again, you could potentially sabotage things. And then you might also have expectations of how somebody else might treat you based on the way that your ex treated you, or they thought about you, or they spoke about you. So if they were saying certain things about you that was obviously impacting the way that you feel about yourself, then you might start expecting other people to do exactly the same thing as them. So you've really gone into the relationship like poised and waiting for that moment. Oh, well, then they said that, my ex used to say that about me, so I guess that's exactly what you're going to do, or that's exactly how you're going to behave. So it really does impact you in so many ways. And when you are feeling good about yourself, then you tend to just not rush the process of finding someone, because you know that you deserve to get it right. You don't try to connect with someone so soon just because you want to be validated by someone else. That's often why we find ourselves like, rushing into relationships, because we're just looking for the validation. We're just looking for someone to choose us and just to say, yes, I pick you. Especially if we've had maybe a messy ending to a relationship. Maybe the person that we were with last didn't fight for us. They didn't, put their effort in. Then we might just really want to just latch onto someone. I know that was definitely something I did, especially after my situationship. I just kind of wanted someone to kind of make me feel better, because I just felt so unwanted by that person, because of obviously how I was feeling about myself. So I just kind of wanted someone else just to make up for it, and I wasn't really focusing on what I actually really deserved, because then I still found myself still attracting people who wanted casual relationships. And that's a whole other story. That's definitely a belief and a pattern I got stuck into. But I didn't take my time. When I started working on myself, when I started working like through this framework that I mentioned, I was able to be more chill. I was able to be more grounded in myself. I was able to see that, yeah, I really do deserve the best, and that's what I'm going to wait for. So, you might have experienced this. I don't know if any of this has happened to you, and I'd love for you to let me know in the chat, in any of your last relationships or while you were dating. Did you ever find yourself people pleasing to get someone to stay? Do you feel like you stayed longer as well in your relationship than that you should have, potentially based on, maybe your worthiness, or you're feeling afraid that nobody else is going to like want you? Did you try, to be somebody that you weren't, to try and make that person like you? and pick you and choose you? You know, did you not ask for what you needed because you were so scared of like rocking the boat? Were you somebody who kind of like gave up all of your dreams and your desires in favor of what they wanted? Obviously, again, so that you could be chosen, so that you didn't upset things with them. Did you also accept treatment that wasn't acceptable, that wasn't really the right standard, that, you know, where you took on a lot less respect from somebody else because you maybe, you know, you weren't feeling like you deserved more? Okay. Or you felt like, well, I'm getting attention from them anyway, they've chosen me anyway, so I might as well just take their crap. Okay, I don't know if you felt like any of this, because if you've gone through anything that I've just mentioned above, all the reasons why you should prepare yourself, you know, or whether you're going through that now in your dating, then it might 100% indicate to you now that you might not feel like you're enough. So I think it's really important for you to start healing that and to build up your value in your eyes and to reclaim your self-worth so that you don't go through all of those things. You don't experience all the stuff that I was talking about, and you actually go into your relationship feeling fully grounded, feeling like you know exactly who you are, that you can ask for what you need because you know you deserve it, that your needs are just as important as your other person's, that you deserve the kind of relationship that you want, that you're worthy of being loved, you're worthy of having the partner that you want, and that you feel lovable. Right? You want to go into a new relationship feeling all of those things. It's going to make so much difference. It's also going to impact, again, who you attract. So, just for the first bit of an exercise for you today, and I would really like you to share this in the chat. We need to kind of get real about how you feel about yourself when it comes to love, loved, being in a relationship. Do you think, first of all, that you deserve your dream relationship? And I'd love you to say on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 obviously being absolutely 100%, I completely deserve my dream relationship, and obviously 1 being no, I don't think I deserve it at all. So put in the chat where you feel like you fall, 1 to 10. Do you think you deserve your dream relationship? Go for it. I'm going to give you a little moment to think about it and then drop it in the chat. Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. 7. Anyone else? Rich Gosway, what do you think? And then I'm going to give you a second question as well, so you can think about this one too. 5. Thank you. Do you feel like you're enough for love? Again, on the scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being absolutely 100%, I feel like I'm enough. 8. Thank you, Rich. Or 1, no, I don't feel like I'm enough for love. If you could put that in the chat, do you feel like you're enough for love on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, 8 again. Awesome. Thanks, Rich. So you're sort of ready. You feel like you're flying high. 7, God's way. You feel like you're enough. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So that's good to know. And also really curious as well to find out how you feel about your scores. Are they, when you sat and reflect on that, does that surprise you? Are you happy about that? Would you like to increase them in any way? I'd really like to know that as well. Let me know in the chat. So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to move on and share with you about how you build up your worthiness. And also, I'm also just going to mute this for a second while I ask my kids to keep it down. Hold on, because I'm not. Okay, I'm back. Right, so then let's talk about how do you build this up. Let's talk about how do you build up your worthiness if you don't feel like you're quite there yet and you would love to. So I'm just going to touch on a few things. So one is going to be uncovering your beliefs about what has made you feel unworthy to begin with. Okay, so even if you're high up on the scale, but you're not quite at 10, this is really good for you to also reflect on as well. It's like, what is it that's making me not feel like a 10? Why am I not at a 10? What's making me kind of doubt myself a little bit? So you've got to understand what the belief is that maybe is going on underneath that. Because I know for me, one of the things was that I did not feel that my needs were as important as other people's. And I discovered that that was actually in the middle of a coaching session. Actually, I was getting coached around my relationship, and it really hit me just like, wow, I don't believe that my needs are as important as other people's. I've grown up with that belief, with that core belief, which is the reason why I've then been bending over backwards. And that's why even I got caught up in this situationship, because I was so busy focused on the other person and making them feel happy and not really thinking about myself or my boundaries or anything like that. So that was a really good thing for me to get, even though it really kind of shook me, because I thought I've been doing this to myself this whole time. So, but the beauty is when you shine a spotlight on the thing that's the problem, especially your belief, then you're already halfway there to making a difference in your life, because awareness is always key, as I always say. Then the most important thing is when you've discovered what those beliefs are, then you reframe them. You reframe the beliefs that are not serving you, because they're only beliefs. They're just things, that narrative stories that we've got caught up in, that we've chosen to take on as truth, but they're not truth. They're not an absolute truth, right? Okay. They're just a truth that we've come to develop based on whatever has gone on around us, whatever experience we've gone through. So you have to then start talking to yourself differently. You have to shift that beliefs to the point that you then start to are telling yourself that you're enough and that you're feeling like you're enough. Okay. That's the key thing. First is the awareness. What's the belief that's underneath that feeling of a lack of worthiness? And then what is the new empowering belief that I can flip that to? So that mine was simply changed to, my needs are just as important as other people's. So when I found myself in situations again where I started to like doubt myself, or started to think somebody wanted something from me and I wasn't, and I was already ready to say yeah, because I was a people pleaser, I had to stop and think, hold on a minute, do I want to do this? Am I feeling like this is what I need right now? Am I happy to do this for this person? You know, does it go against what I? So it was really good for me, because I had to stop and think, hold on, my needs are just as important. So what do I need first of all? So it was really good for me to, because that's the change that you make. Then you start doing things differently as a result, not the way that you always are. And I was able to start really tapping into that more, and it really started to help me rewire my my subconscious, rewire my beliefs, so that I became the person who was the worthy person who I used to be. Right. So that's a couple of things. Let me just read what Rich said. It's very true for me. I was always making sure she was okay, not thinking about the impact of myself. So only once the relationship ended that I realized it's definitely a core value for a new relationship. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Rich. And that's so good for you to notice that as well, for you to have seen it, to have that realization, because then yes, you can actually make something change the way that you show up in your new relationship. So that's great. Another way to help you to feel more worthy is letting go of the past, which might include forgiving yourself. Okay. Because when we come out of our relationships, there's a lot of forgiveness to be had for the person that probably did not show up for us the way that we wanted them to, whatever that looked like. Whether that was not being loyal to us, whether that was not treating us well, whether that was just not making the effort to make the effort in the relationship to show up or to see us, or any of those things. It could have been that, it could have been any of that. But then there's also times when we may have either done something ourselves to our ex-partner, we have behaved in a certain way, maybe we weren't loyal, but it could also be maybe we stayed too long. Maybe we held on too long. We thought we were doing the good thing, especially if it's for kids, or we just stayed in it hoping that it was going to change. But actually, we knew that maybe years before we actually finally ended that relationship was the time we probably should have gone. And we feel like, oh, we've wasted so much time now staying in that, when actually I should have been brave enough. Thank you for sharing that, Nikki. Yeah, staying way too long. I know I've definitely done that myself. And we can sometimes beat ourselves up for that. And we can sometimes then, it impacts how, whether or not we can trust ourselves going forward with, are we making the right choice? Are we, should we go forward with this relationship, this one or not? Or I'm too scared. What if I stay too long this time? Or what if I don't give it long enough? Do you know what I mean? But sometimes that's because we're carrying what we were experiencing in our last relationship, and we have to forgive ourselves and start afresh, have a clean slate. So we have to let go of the past. That's another thing. And then also being able to really know who we are and accept ourselves for who we are, warts and all, because that's another thing that seems to happen. Just one second, letting Ash back in the room. Um, that's another thing that can seem to happen is if we are not being our most authentic self, if we are, kind of contorting ourselves a little bit to be accepted, to be valued. Welcome back, Ash. To, we feel like we've got to be somewhere we're not, maybe because we feel like we're being too much or we're not being enough for somebody. And that's because maybe we don't quite accept ourselves fully. And that's why we can sometimes, be questioning and second guessing our every move. And then when we're dating, if we're doing that, then also that person is not really going to get to know who you really are if you're like not really being you, if you're not comfortable in your own skin, because that impacts your confidence. If you're trying to put on a version of yourself that's not really you, which after a while you can get kind of tired and bored of it, you feel like you've got to keep faking it. Don't do that. It gets exhausting. And then also, they're not really making an informed choice about you. They're not really deciding, are you actually compatible with me? Because they don't really know you. Do you know what I mean? And vice versa. They can't really be compatible with you if you're trying so hard to be somebody who you think you ought to be for them. Okay. So if you want to have an authentic relationship, if you want to have an authentic connection, you've got to be able to be, yourself. You're going to be able to be yourself in that situation, in that relationship, and be able to see who you are. Like the parts that you like about yourself, embrace them. The parts you're not really that feeling that great about, embrace them too, and be like, okay, there's always room for change and there's always room for growth. I'm still great just the way that I am, and obviously I'm not talking about bad behavior and bad character. That those are the things that you want to work on. But I just mean if you're feeling like you're a bit flawed, like maybe you feel like somebody said to you, oh, you're quite opinionated, you talk too much, you're too cheesy, goodness me, you're so sensitive, why, all these things, and then you start to take them on as if they're actual real problems when they're just part of you, and that person's not, suitable for you because they don't align with you. All right. But you have to not let those things feel like flaws. They're just you. And as soon as you embrace them, because I know for myself, I used to apologize for myself. I'm so sorry. I'm just so mushy. I'm so sorry if that was so cheesy. And I was just, after I was like, what are you doing? Why are you apologizing for yourself? You are who you are. They're not apologizing. They're just getting on with themselves. So you don't want to be that person. It does really help you to have confidence, building self-confidence. Thank you, God's way. Is that the thing where you feel like that's what you need to do? You need to build your self-confidence a little bit more, to feel more worthy. So I hope that part, just that part one where we talked about the worthiness, has been helpful. I'd love for you to share any insights or reflections on that in the chat. If anything sparked for you that you'd be like, oh yeah, that's me, or I need to do that, that would be super helpful. Are we ready to move on to part 2? Yeah. Okay, so part 2 is your life actually ready for another person? Right now we're talking about relationship readiness, which I think is what you were talking about, Nikki. So this may help you. So there's so many different elements to kind of being relationship ready, and a lot of it is to do with areas in our lives, not just about like some of that internal stuff, but thinking about, have you got any unresolved areas in your life that you need to work on so that you can kind of go into the relationship with a clean slate? This is where you don't have anything hanging over you, anything that's not been dealt with, particularly, from your last relationship, as well, or anything within your life as well that you want to be working on, that you're kind of going to allow yourself to put aside all for the focus of a relationship, because you don't want that. Because often when we get into a relationship, we do get a bit distracted. We get all loved up, don't we? We get caught up in that honeymoon period, and it just means that we leave a lot of things unresolved, and we don't give them the time that they deserve, especially the dreams and the goals that we might have. Or you might end up using the relationship to fill a void, to cover up or bury the issue that's not been dealt with. All those unresolved issues could actually impact your new relationship. Okay, that's why you do need to be relationship ready. You don't want to go into something looking for the relationship to fill the void. I talk about this all the time. I think that was even one, it was definitely one of my podcast episodes, yeah, when I talk about that. It's a really important piece, and it's definitely one of my key pillars, which is love your life pillar. So some of the areas that you might need to look at is, we talked about letting go of the past, forgiving your ex or forgiving yourself. Not being divorced yet is bad for you. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that still lingers, doesn't it? That still has an effect, particularly if you're looking for a new partner in there. New partners can definitely question, why you're not divorced yet. Are you going to go back to that person? So it can be an issue. So resolving that, for one, is being able to start a clean slate, is making sure that your divorce has come through and it's final. People still date though while they're in the process of it. And I think how you manage that relationship with your ex and all the other things can have an impact as well. And then there's getting triggered by people's behavior, which I think I touched on, particularly if, you've had somebody be disloyal to you, if they've cheated on you. And then you are looking for that and you're keeping your eyes open for any signs that the new person might do that with you. So that means you haven't really healed and you haven't really forgiven and you haven't really let go and dealt with that. And you want to be able to do that because you want to give everybody else a clean slate to show you who they are, not for you to go in with preconceived ideas about something that they do or say that means that they're going to be exactly like your ex. Then there might be some, issues with your exes that have just not been resolved. Like maybe you're still holding on to some bitterness and to some resentment towards them. And, you're going to carry that into your next relationship and you're going to be talking about them in such a negative way, which is going to make your new person wonder, what you might say about them if they mess up, for example, or they might think that you're still attached to your ex, because even if you are not attached to them in a loving way, if you're still holding all that resentment and bitterness, you are still attached to them. You're still feeling these emotions, which means you haven't resolved things from your past. I know somebody who carried resentment and bitterness for years, and I just don't think they ever got into another relationship because of it. I think it then also made them basically tar like just men with the same brush constantly because they were still holding on to so much. So it will affect you. It might also start putting you off, and might start making you maybe think, oh, there's nobody out there that's great because everybody I meet is like this, so therefore they're going to be just like my ex, and that's not what you want. And also, I think maybe I'll touch on that in the next one. Let me say it now in case I forget to say it. But also, you then might go into relationships looking for the opposite of your ex as a result of not being able to just let that go and start a clean slate. Another thing with your being relationship ready is like, are your walls up? Maybe you're not ready to be vulnerable with another person just yet. So that way you're not going to be ready to build emotional intimacy with somebody new. You're going to end up like losing your identity as well, because you're going to get caught up in this new relationship without actually dealing with all of your stuff. Again, that's why if you don't have the life that you want, if you're not focusing on building your life, if you're not being a happy single, then basically you're going to be looking for somebody to kind of like fill a void, and you'll just get caught up in that relationship and you'll forget who you are. And if you are being a happy single, which I always like to talk about, which is where you are focusing on your dreams and your goals and you're enjoying your life and your like passions and interests, you're more likely to attract a high quality person who wants to add value to your life. They're going to know that you're not there to just kind of depend on them. You're not looking for them to be so dependent, and that can be very off-putting because that's a lot of pressure, like to wanting somebody to make you happy, thinking that once I get into a relationship I'm going to be happy. It doesn't really work like that. You might get caught up in the honeymoon period, but all your other stuff will still come back up later and will impact the relationship. And then you've put pressure on that person as well with that, because that person is inevitably going to mess up in some way because they're not perfect, right? We're all human. We all make mistakes. And then you're putting all this on somebody to not mess up, to be this perfect person, to make you happy. And yet you have to make yourself happy first. Okay, that way then it doesn't, when things do go wrong, it's not like a massive deal. You can find yourself working through things rather than putting that pressure on somebody. Equally, if you're feeling lonely and you're just wanting to find somebody out of loneliness, again, that puts that pressure on somebody else. to be something for you. And it means you're always going to feel very anxious or antsy when that person goes off and does their own thing, or, is away from you for a little bit, because you've now got them as the solution to your loneliness. You have to resolve that first yourself in some way before you start getting involved with somebody. It's important for you to have like a full life. And I'm not saying that you have to have everything figured out. Oh, sorry. You have to have everything figured out before you bring somebody into your life. You don't. We're going to still be working through stuff. We're still going to be healing in a new relationship as well. That's going to, relationships often are the mirrors that show us what's going on for us. So you don't have to have it all figured out, but if you can actually feel like you've got a happier life, you're doing great, you're working on stuff like that, you're not going to be worried about, even if something goes wrong, ending up being back on your own again. That way you're not going to feel like you've got to hold on to somebody, because they're meeting this need for you. They're filling this void, they're filling this loneliness, they're making you happy. Okay, so that's why it's so important to be a happy single. Also, if you're with your exes, as a parent, if you don't get on well with your kid's parent, okay, other parent, that could also impact your relationship. Because you don't want your new partner, because often I think one of the biggest fears for people who come out of long-term relationships, marriages, divorced mums, divorced dads, fears that a new partner won't want to be with them because they're divorced, and because they've got children, and because maybe they've got someone in the background, or an ex-partner. But I often find that actually people are more concerned about your relationship with the ex-partner and how that's going to affect your relationship, how much of that's going to get in your way. You know what I mean? How much are you going to be constantly talking about them and slagging them off and all kinds of things, which they don't want to hear about it. They're not going to want to hear about your ex. So it's just about making sure that you've got as civil a relationship as you can, because obviously when it comes to your children, you want to make sure that your relationship with your ex doesn't affect their relationship, the parent and child relationship, that you don't ever use your kids as pawns in your game. It's not about that. But that you can be as civil as you possibly can and keep as much distance as possible if you need to, so that it doesn't affect. I mean, you want that anyway, so it doesn't impact the whole situation with your children. But certainly, if you're going to get into a new relationship, you don't want them to worry that it's going to affect you. So always consider, what boundaries you're going to have in place between you and your ex before you move into your new relationship, and you're very clear about that. So there are other things as well about your relationship or your life readiness as well. It's like, is there something you want to do career-wise? Is there something you want to, advance with within your career? Or if you're growing a business, do you need to put some attention into those things first so that they don't get waylaid when you get into a relationship? Have you got any financial worries, any legal things that you need to deal with that might potentially affect your relationship? What about your friends and family relationships as well? Is there a lot of drama going on there too that might bleed into it? So it's just being aware of how all of these things can impact your relationship. So I'm going to drop this in. Hopefully you'll be able to get it. I'm just thinking about the time. I wanted to give you this like quiz, or it's like a checklist basically for you to go through and score. And I'm going to drop it in, and I'm just going to go through what the questions are. If you want to do this quietly in the background, you're welcome to. But it's just a Google Doc, so I don't mind the whole link. But I just want it. This is like a relationship readiness checklist, and I have a deeper self-assessment that I always do with people. When I'm going to work with them, or when I get on like calls with them and stuff like that, so they can really assess where they're at. So this just kind of gives you the high level sort of version of some of the areas. So if you click on that and have a look, and what I'll do is I'll just read through what the questions are, just so you can see. We've just got somebody also arriving. Aisigal, I've got the name right. Hi Aisigal, hope I've got your name right. Welcome, thank you for joining us. Where are you from? Love to hear. I've just dropped something in the chat. Hopefully you get it. Hello, lovely. I've just dropped something in the chat, so hopefully you can see it. We've just basically been talking about relationship readiness. That was part 2. We talked about part 1 was about feeling worthy. And obviously I'll send you the replay so you can catch up on the bit that you've missed. And then part 2 is just about being relationship ready. So I've just dropped a link in, and I'm just going to read through the questions so you guys can do this after. And then I'll ask you one quick question. So let me read through these questions myself so you can see. So it's really good for you to know. So rate yourself from on a scale of 0 to 10 in this particular quiz. I hope you can all see it. Can you all see it? Let me know. And there's 10 questions, and they're essentially is number one, I know what I want, that I've got a clear vision for my life and relationship. Number two is, you know, your requirements, which I'm going to touch on a little bit as well. Number three, okay, thanks God's way, I'm happy and successful single. Number four, I'm ready and available for commitment. Number five, I'm satisfied with my work and my career. Number six, I'm healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Number seven, my financial legal business is handled. Number eight, my family relationships are functional. Number nine, I have effective dating skills. And number 10, I have effective relationship skills. Now, I'd love for you, oh, I think Isabel dropped out. I'd love for you to go through that quiz. And if you get to do it while we're on the call, that's great. Although hopefully it doesn't mean that you're not listening to me. And then you can share what score you got as well, so we can see. Maybe I'll give you a bit of time at the end to do that. So, but barring that, based on the stuff that I've already just shared with you, can you think of anything right now that isn't resolved for you, that you've still got to work on? What's an area that you feel like, you know, as I was going through, is it, you know, I know obviously Nikki, you talked about the fact you're not divorced yet. Is it not being divorced yet? Is it that, you know, you've got any financial legal stuff? Is it there's still stuff going on with your ex in terms of how things are going with the children? Is it, you know, you are feeling a little bit lonely and you actually need to fill up your life with the things that you want to fill up your life with versus looking for somebody to come and fill the void for you? So let me know in the chat. Is there anything right now that you feel like, yeah, this is not resolved for me? Asagul, can you see the link that I dropped in here? No, because I think you came in literally just after I dropped it. So I'm going to drop it in again. If it will let me, there it is. And it's basically a relationship readiness quiz. Right, I've just popped it in now. So if you go to where the chat is, and then there's a link there, so you can open that quiz up and you can do it when we're done here today, which is fine, which gives you a chance to like get a picture, like a light touch picture of where you're at. And as I was saying, I do have a more detailed one that I tend to give out people when I do calls and stuff. Also work with clients so that you can really get an idea of what's standing in your way. Right. I don't think anyone's going to share anything right now about being unresolved issues, or you can still type if you're typing. Okay. So part 3. So what I want to talk about is the final bit about what you need before moving forward. So this is another thing that can be an obstacle for you, is actually when you don't know what you want, what it is that you need. Okay. And I always focus on this in my like from X to Next programs, because this is an important piece. And what you need also is kind of is a little bit more around what you need to feel loved. But when you don't know what you want, so for example, I touched on before that sometimes I feel still quite high. I'm actually thinking I'm ready, but I'm not, kind of scared of giving my all. Okay, Rich, thank you for that. It'd be really useful to touch on that a little bit more. That's maybe the bit where we're talking about, you know, feeling you're not being ready for vulnerability, being vulnerable and throwing yourself all in out of like fear maybe of being hurt. So with part 3, when you don't know what you want, so when you often, I think one of the issues, as I touched on before, is when we've come out of a relationship and maybe we've had a bad experience with our ex and the character that they are, one of our first things can be we want to find somebody who's the opposite to our ex, right? But that's really us kind of running from something. What we want to be doing is kind of running to a version, a person or a type of relationship that we actually want to be in, that we know is going to be fulfilling, which might mean that your new person has some of your ex's characteristics, but it means that they would also be able to give you the relationship that you want, because you've got shared values and interests, right? Because this is where, if you're not sure what you want, this is where you fall in and out of relationships with nice enough people, but not necessarily compatible people. And you'll end up staying in these relationships that are not kind of like setting you alight, but maybe you feel comfortable in them. And maybe you just want to have someone there. And maybe you're just happy that you've met somebody, right? And if you say that, okay, that's fine, and I don't mind that, then you got to ask yourself, is that because of a belief that you have, or you have a fear that you're not going to be able to find somebody else or find the person that you really want? So when you know what it is that you want, this helps you as well to filter your matches. So when you are meeting people, whether you're online dating or you're meeting people in person, and you're kind of a bit unsure about whether you want to move forward with them, this is where knowing what you want is going to really help you so much. It stops you from second guessing, because you're going to be able to just say, well, do they have these key requirements that I know will make me happy in a relationship? Right. And if they don't, then there's no point me going forward with this at all, because I know somewhere along the line it's going to mess me up. It's going to mess the relationship up. All right. So you've got to get really clear on what kind of relationship experience it is that you want to have. And this is all going to be really based on your values. It's going to be based on your desired values. So you've got to really think about what it is that you value. What do you value in life? What is it that you want to be doing in your future? What's important to you? Whether, you are somebody who likes to travel, you want to travel the world. Maybe that's the new goal for you. Or, maybe you want to be a digital nomad. Maybe family is super important to you. Is it that, I'm trying to think of different things, that being ambitious is maybe a healthy lifestyle, being fit and eating the right foods, and that's important. And then which ones then do you want to share with your partner? What's important for you to share with your partner? And I'm talking about values, right? And even your interests. What interests might you want to share as well? I'm going to read that in 1 second. What interests do you want to share with your partner too? These are the things that are important for you to know. How do you want your partner to fit into your life, and what you're thinking of that you want to have for your life? So these not just about traits. They're not just about personality traits. Are they kind? Are they, funny? Are they good company? Are they caring? Like, because those are kind of things I feel like a bit like standard. You want people to care about you. You want them to be kind. You want them to be respectful, right? So you want to go beyond that. You want to go a little bit deeper into what's going to create a really good foundation for your relationship. What is going to be non-negotiables that, if you didn't have these in that partnership, it just wouldn't work for you. Okay. So that's why you've got to be super clear on what you want going forward. So you're not dating in the dark, as I call it, because you're just like, they're nice, I'll just be with that person. Oh, that person made me laugh. Or they're really good company, I'll just be with them. Okay. And this is where you get so tripped up. And one of my clients, she was just doing this all the time. She was just getting into relationships just because somebody chose her, just because somebody said, yes, I like you, let's get together. But she knew that in each one of these relationships, she said, she wasn't really happy. She knew they were meh. She knew that she shouldn't be with them. She always knew that she should probably break up with them, but she still bizarrely kept moving forward. And it was always that person that kept breaking up with her. And she was kind of relieved, but then she'd just go into the next relationship again with the next person who said, oh yeah, I like you, let's get together. And that was the end of it. And so when we started working together, this is one of the key things I worked with her on. Is like, okay, let's look at what you actually really want in a relationship. Let's just stop, saying yes to everybody. You start being the chooser as well. But you want to be able to only say yes to the people that actually fit you, not just for the sake of it. So when we did go through this, we worked on some other things, but this was one of the key points. And she started going back dating again. She went online, and she was chatting to lots of people. She was, really finding a few people that were suitable. She felt were suitable for her. And then she was using her non-negotiables. And then she'd kind of like get into conversations with people. And then she'd be like, this person actually doesn't have, this non-negotiable, so I'm going to let that one go. Even to the point she said, oh, tops, I've just like met this one person. He's great. He ticks all of my boxes. We're going to go on a date. We're just going to have the pre-date phone call. I loved it. She had a really good strategy. We came up with a plan. So she got on the call. And she came back to me the next day. She said, I had to cancel the date. And I was like, why? She said, because this one key thing that I know that if we don't have, it's not going to work. It's a key value for me. And so I had to say no. But I'm really proud of myself because normally I would have just said yes. I would have just gone on the date because he ticked so many of the other boxes. And I was very proud of her too, because that was a real massive bit of progress. She didn't waste her time getting into yet another relationship that was not going to go anywhere. And then she went on a date with somebody who did fit a lot of her other values, and she dated him for a while. And again, though, she ended that with him. She ended it because she said something was not right. There was something that was missing for me, and I could have continued on, but this time I said no. He was lovely, but he wasn't 100% compatible. So again, another massive bit of progress for her. Then her next person that she met has turned out to be the right one. And now she's been happily loved up with him for ages. So it all worked out in her favor, because it's so important to be able to say no to the wrong person as much as it is to be able to say yes to the right one. But it just saved her, and it saved them time as well, because then they were able to go off and find people who are right for them, and for her to feel empowered and feel confident in herself to be able to just say no. And that's exactly what happened. She felt so much more confident, so much more empowered. And also that was a shine that was glowing for her. Lots of people saying, God, you're really like very confident. You really know what you want. And she said, I love it. I love feeling like this. And I love that people can see that in me. So it does make a massive difference when you are super clear on what you're looking for. And it makes obviously a massive difference to then the experience that you have in the relationship, because now she's really happy with this person because they have got so many things lined up, which is exactly what she wanted. It doesn't feel meh. It feels wonderful. She feels lit up. So that's what you want to have. So I want you to, just as a starting point, look back on your last relationship. Think about, because if you're like, I don't really know where to start, then you think about one thing that you liked, one thing that you don't ever want to have again, right? Because that's a value that you just didn't share. It was a mismatch. And one thing that was missing that you actually really would have loved. And this is not about the person in terms of the trait, but something that you wanted to experience. What's something you loved experiencing in that relationship? Was it there was a lot of affection between you? Was one thing you never want again, like lots of dishonesty, like where you're not being honest with one another and you're not being transparent enough? Maybe one thing that was missing that you would have loved. Can't think of like another thing. There's so many things in relationships, isn't there? Maybe you wanted to share something like a lifestyle thing with them that was so important to you. Like maybe you're really into personal growth, for example, and that person just isn't, that's not for them, and that's a journey you'd love to go on with someone, because then it starts to give you a picture of what it is that you actually value and what it is that you want to share with another person. So I'd love for you to look back on that before I touch on the next part. Share with me something that you really loved. Share with me something that you would have wanted more of and you didn't want again. So let's see. The bit thing is to end up in another relationship also after divorce. You lose the self-confidence. Yeah, 100% you can do that. You do fear for yourself that you might end in another relationship. But you can have confidence, is what we were talking about in the first part, about building up your self-worth as well. And when you know what you're looking for, that really helps. And when you're relationship ready, that really helps. Rich, I wasn't too fond of the part where she cheated on me. Yeah, I bet, Rich, I've been there too. It doesn't feel great, right? That's not what you want. You want loyalty, right? That's your value. That's very important to you, is you want loyalty. I know we all want it, but then you've also got to define exactly what does loyalty look for you. Okay. And obviously not into the depth of being possessive, but just what does it really mean? What's the boundary line for you as well? Because then it will help you to notice where things might be going, hopefully not wrong, and also there are things that maybe you can find out from people about what their values are. That's going to be maybe an important thing to ask somebody. And what does that mean to you? What does loyalty mean to you? What are your boundaries with the opposite sex, like in terms of your friendships and stuff like that? Because it is all right for people to have friendships with the opposite sex. It just depends on the context, the history, the whole load of things, and you'll be able to figure that one out. You know what I mean? But you've got to have that clarity for yourself. So I guess, Rich, that will be one of your values. Anything else anyone wants to share about something that you loved, something that you never want to experience again, like obviously Rich does, and one thing missing that you would have actually loved to have had and didn't have, and you kept probably thinking, oh, I wish I had this. I'd love for you to share it while you're thinking about that. I'm just going to share this because I don't want us to go on too long. So another part with the relationship is just being also aware of your relationship expectations. Sometimes we think that the person that we want to be with should be our everything. I definitely know this is a mistake I made, but one person cannot be your everything. It's just not realistic, right? We can't put that on somebody else. That's why it's so good to have a network of friends and family around us, so that there are some different things. There are some core things that you want to have, obviously, in your relationship with a person. And it's all about your relationship experience, but you can't expect them to solve everything, be everything for you. And it's good for you to also know what share your expectations as well with one another in the beginning as well, what you would love in that relationship with that person, what's important to you, because you want to think about you're co-creating a relationship with somebody. You're not demanding that somebody be a certain something for you and show up in a certain way for you. It's not everything about you. You're going to relationship for someone too. You're going to give them love, to give them care, to give them support. It's something you're building together. Okay. Sometimes I think we focus so much on what they're going to give us, what we're going to get from that person, what are they going to do for us? But hey, what are you going to be doing for one another? What are you going to be building and creating? So looking back, do you feel like, apart from the bare minimum of feeling loved, respected, treated well, do you think that you expected anything of your exes that maybe you felt might have been a little bit unreasonable? Maybe you put too much on them, or or that you want your partner to give you more than what is you think is reasonable. So it'd be really good to know in terms of what is reasonable is or unreasonable is expecting them to meet your every need, right, which we touched on, and filling your loneliness gap or reading your mind. And that's one of the things that, well, they should know what I want. They should know how I feel. They should know by now. And it's like, not always. You've got to sometimes actually teach people how to love you. You've got to sometimes share with people what it is that you need, because people have gone through different relationships, right? And maybe they're showing you love in the way that they maybe have done it before, and that's been okay for their last person. But for you, it doesn't work like that. Maybe this is what you need to feel loved, okay? And I'm not just being picky and petty, but just like particularly, I love talking a lot about the 5 love languages in this area of emotional need. Are you somebody who loves quality time? Do you love acts of service? Are you somebody who appreciates gifts? Are you someone who likes words of affirmation or physical touch? Those might be things that the person as well might not even be brilliant at, but can learn how to do that, because that's what makes you feel loved more. That's what fills up your love tank. And you can share that and communicate that in a positive way, okay, as well, rather than, being demanding or picky or blaming when they're not getting it right. Okay, love is actually a choice. You've got to choose how to share love as well with others. So just remember that, you can't be putting so much on people. You've got to be able to express how you feel. Even though I know you probably think to yourself, but they should know by now. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit repetitive. It just depends. Or sometimes you're going to have to sit and turn things into like a little bit of a business thing, where you're writing down the things that you're agreeing to. You're writing down the list of things that you would love from one another. There's no harm in that. It helps to come back to something. It helps to the building and the creating. So that is the end of that section. So I'd love for you to drop in if you've got any questions before we kind of wrap up, any reflections, any insights, anything you want to ask. I've got one more thing to ask of you, but just let me know what has kind of really stood out for you with what we've shared today. Just going to give you a minute to do that. And I'm more than happy to answer questions. As I said to you at the beginning, I love answering questions and helping people with stuff. And if you want me to go over, I'm going to go over them if you need reminding. especially Asa Girl who wasn't here. So the 3 things that can make or break your dating journey after divorce is 1, it's about whether or not you feel good about yourself before you date again. Thank you, Nikki. 2, it's making sure your life is set up for a relationship, that you're relationship ready. And it's 3, knowing exactly who or what you're looking for. Okay. These 3 things are going to stop you from wasting time on the wrong people or ending up in another scenario that you don't actually want to be in. And as I said, obviously at the top, after my divorce, I just wanted to meet someone. I just wanted to be with somebody, but I did not know how to avoid all of the wrong turns. And I just made so many wrong turns, which is why it took me, as I said, 17 years after my divorce before I met my partner, who I've been with for 4 years now. And this is why I just do not want it to take long for all of you. So, it's really important for you to just be relationship ready. And I'm glad that you're really aware, Nikki, that you're maybe not ready yet and you're just kind of trying to fill your loneliness. And it's, there's no judgment there because it happens. But it's about, okay, if you know that this is what's going on for you, what can you do instead to help yourself to feel less lonely, to feel like you're living and enjoying life in joyful expectation while you wait for a new partner as well. My struggle is the meeting new people part. I'm not the kind of person who've got to go and introduce myself, which leaves me with online dating, which if you're not careful could really depress you. I know all about online dating. I did it on and off for a decade. And it does definitely have its moments where it can depress you. If you're not in my free conscious dating group, come in there. I'm going to drop the link because we're actually talking about online dating this week, funnily enough. And I'm doing all the bits and bobs. Let me just see if I can get the link for you so you can just come and join us. Hold on. I can't seem to get my link. Okay, I might have to send it to you in the oh, here it is. It's taking me so long. So yeah, we're talking about online dating at the moment. Let me get the link for you. Just different bits and bobs. So hopefully this might help you, but I can 100% get you. It can be depressing, but I also really believe that it can work because obviously I met my partner there. As I said, that's where I met my partner online, and I had to go through many kind of different iterations as well about how to do this online. I'm hoping that this is copied. Let me see. Oh, hold on. I can just do it like this. Sorry, I don't know why. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it's worked. If not, I'll just drop it in the email. But this is yay, there you go. That's my free Telegram channel. And we're talking about that online dating this week and bios and profiles and all sorts of bits and bobs and stuff like that. So come and join us. But yeah, I think it sounds like you maybe need a little bit of, I don't know if you feel like you need a little bit of confidence. Is that what you feel like it is for you, Rich? That or is it more about where do you go to meet people as well? Another thing I'm actually going to be doing in the group in the next week or so is talking about where to meet someone in person. But yeah, if it's a confidence thing, it might be different. Maybe you just might need a little bit of help in how to start conversations so that they feel natural, so they don't feel like you're kind of like trying to sort of chase people down or anything like that. So yeah, that's what I'd say. So I think I don't know if the rest of you are just reflecting. So on a scale of 1 to 10 then, how ready do you feel for love? I'd love to know. How ready do you feel for dating? 10 being 100% ready, 1 being not ready at all. I'd love to know a bit of both. It also doesn't help that my friends are married, so they rarely go out now. Yeah, thank you for the link. You're welcome. Yeah, that can be tough, isn't it, when you've got people around you as well who are already in relationships and stuff like that, and you're like, well, what do I do and who do I go with? But there's a way. So 5, you feel so. 8, you feel more enough ready. 8, Rich, thanks for sharing. Asigal, how do you feel? Do you feel ready yet for love again? And then another question for you folks: what would you love to happen next for you? What would you love? because I think that'll be really good to know. What do you feel like? Okay, this is what I need. You're not ready. Okay. Would you say that's like a 1 then, basically? It's a 1. Um, and where do you feel like, based on the 3 areas we talked about, loving your life or loving yourself? I know we talked about someone's self-confidence, loving your being relationship ready. I know we've got a couple of you. And clarity. Does anyone feel like they know who they're looking for, what kind of relationship they want next? Who feels really confident about that? Or do you feel like that's still an area that you need to be working on? I think it's also not easy to find somebody after an age. Well, you know what? It's so interesting that you say that, but I would gently challenge that and say that I think that is just a belief. I think we can meet people at any age, and people do. People meet people at any age. I think you've got to, if that's a belief you're holding on to, that's going to trip you up and keep sabotage your dating life. Because it's the same when people say, I don't think there's any good men, or I don't think there's any good women out there, then if you do, you're not going to see anyone. You're not going to see the good men and the good women, because that's what you believe. Like, our brains look for ways to, you know, um, validate what we already think. So if you want to believe that there are people out there I can find somebody at my age, then you've got to, then you'll be able to see people. So I know it sounds simple, but it really is. It really is. It needs working on. I seem to attract like the same type. Then you need to be stuck. Thank you, Isabel. You need to work on what your patterns are. Look at me. I've got all these little juicy things for you. So I recently just did a 7-part pattern decoder group. It's still going, actually. I've just kept it open. And it is all about how to decode your dating pattern. So basically, if you feel like you're attracting the same person over and over again, there is definitely a reason for it. And what you need to do is to help yourself by understanding what that pattern is. Why does that keep happening? And then basically find out what the driver is, what's behind that pattern. So I'm just going to share this with you, what's behind that pattern. And let's see, hope this comes through okay. And then how you can upgrade it. Let me see, does that work? Yeah. So this is a different Telegram group for any of you who want to come and figure out what your patterns are. So I've just, the audio's in there and there are exercises in there, and it's free. So come and check it out if you're like, I need to figure out why I keep attracting the same type of person. That will really help you. So come and jump into that, and you can share stuff in there, and I'll happily give you a little bit of reflection and insight as well. So that is another thing you want to basically get out. Thank you. You want to basically get out of that cycle and start getting a little bit of clarity around also what it is you're working on. And also what I would love to offer everybody, because you're all here at a different point of where you are, what I like to do occasionally, I don't do it all the time just because of capacity, but I'd love to offer you like a free relationship success call. And it's 1-to-1. So it'll just be me and you, there's no pressure, obviously no judgment. And what we'll do for about 30 minutes, we'll kind of look at where you're currently feeling a bit stuck, figure out what's blocking you from feeling ready. So whether, like for you, Nikki, it might be your loneliness. Maybe we could come up with a plan for how to kind of get you out of that. It might be you want to talk about the patterns if you want to. Ace girl, if you're feeling like you're not ready yet, and maybe it's a belief that you're stuck in, or look at exactly what it is that's stopping you from feeling completely ready, and then maybe come up with a few steps to help you start dating again with confidence and clarity, or start working your way towards readiness. So and whatever else it may be for you, Ash, and you, God's way, if you want, if it's about feeling confident, it's about knowing how to approach people, I would really love to support you. And what I would give you is a relationship readiness quiz. Not a quiz, a self-assessment. So you can go a bit deeper if you want to go a little bit deeper. And, if you want to go a little bit deeper on that. And then we'll talk through what the key points are. So the assessment I'll give you will be brilliant, because you'll probably be able to see a little bit more about, like, oh, this is it. This is the thing that's actually really holding me back right now. And then we'll just pick one thing and come up with a few plans, a few steps for you. So if you'd love that, and I would absolutely 100% love to connect with you as well, a little bit more one-on-one, especially as I've only seen one of your faces on here, which is fair enough, it's fine. But it'd be nice to like connect with you. So it will be a little bit of a Zoom call, just 30 minutes, and we'll look at what's keeping you stuck and then come up with a little mini plan for you going forward. Okay, no pressure for anything else, just would love to give you the extra support. You can also come and join the free group, and either of or both of those free groups as well, if you want to. And oh, brilliant. Yeah, go for it. Please book it. I live for this stuff. I live for it. I'll be so happy when I see like the booking. I'll be like, yay. I'll be really excited to sit and talk with you and just see what it is for you, because everybody's at different places. Basically everyone's in a different level, so it helps. And I like doing more personalized things where I get to pinpoint what it is for you and like give you something really specific and practical on your way. So hopefully you guys will you know, jump in and take me up on that. I don't do them often. I really do not do them often. So if it's there, take it. I do a lot more Telegram one-to-one sessions, complimentary ones, and even those I'm not doing them often. So I'm just saying, just snap it while you can. And yeah, so I just, I appreciate you guys for being here. I know you could have probably been doing other things, maybe binging something on Netflix. Side note, anyone binging anything on Netflix, Paramount or Prime that you'd love to share, I'd love to hear what I always get fascinated with what people are watching. So, I do really appreciate that you've come here and you're investing your time in your love life like this. I think it's so important for people. And, I do want you to feel assured that dating after divorce can be fun, and it can be exciting, and it can be full of possibility, but when you've got the right foundations for it. So, even if you just take one thing from today, my internet went and lost some of the call. How do I sign up? Oh, did I not put the hold on, let me just put the link back in here for you. You might have dropped out when I posted it. So just click that link, just book the call. I think I've got availability next week. You're welcome. And then I'll send you, once you've booked, I'll send you a assessment, so you can make sure you just go through that and then send it to me before our call, so I can just have a quick look at it and see if I can pick out what's standing out for me as well that I can support you with. But yeah, so I just feel like anything, if you want to take one thing from tonight, and in fact, I'd love to know, what is one thing that you are going to take from this session today to help support you going forward? What is the one thing? And is there one thing that's practical that you can do, or one thing that's kind of been a great awareness for you? Share it, please, before we leave. I'd love to really hear about it. And otherwise, I really hope that you will book a call, because I'd love to help you. But yeah, share with me. What's the one thing you're taking away from today? I'm going to wait for a little bit while you write it. Sorry, I keep looking for my water. It's like I've forgotten where I've put it. It was right here. It's where I thought it was. All done. Just realizing that I'm probably not as ready as I thought. Okay, that's good. And it's good to have that awareness, because it's going to save you, because then you can get ready now. That's what we're going to talk about. Motivation that I can love again. Brilliant. Love that, Asagal. Thank you for sharing that. You absolutely can. And definitely from a place of like feeling ready for it as well. And there's no rush. It's when you are absolutely ready. Just wait and see if I get any more. I'm doing that being patient thing where I'm not chit-chatting. Anything from Ash or God's Way? If you've got anything, if not, you're welcome. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you've got anything and you're in the middle of writing, just do me a thumbs up reaction so I don't cut you off. If you're not, if there's no thumbs up, then I'm just going to assume that you're not going to share anything, and that's fine. Absolutely fine. Or taking action from manifestation and motivation. Okay, that is cool. Sorry, that's okay. It's hard to know because they don't have. I wish they had a thing in the chat where you could see the dot dot dots, so you can see people typing, so that way you could like just relax. How can you find the recording? I will send it out to you because the only way you've got this is by email. So I know I've got your email address, so I can send you out the replay and you can watch from the beginning again. I'll also send out these links as well in the replay too, so you can just go and click on them. But yeah, okay, brilliant. That's okay. God's way. Anything from you before I go? Because I don't want to cut you off. You're welcome, Ash. Okay, I think that's it. All right. You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing and being reflective and let me know about it. I appreciate you. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you again, either in the group or on a call. All right. Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye.